Hi guys. So as you can see, this week is slightly different. I'm on site at the beautiful Nant Gwernol station. I'm here to get drawings, measurements, and most importantly, what I found I needed this week is drone footage. I'm going to be using that drone footage to then plot out the track on the layout because the drawings that I've got from a book from about the 1800s is not going to cut it, unfortunately. So I think whilst the weather's good and there's no wind, we're going to get the drone up and I'll show you how I do that now. Okay, so the drone I'm going to be using today is the faithful DJI Mavic Mini. This is first generation, so fairly cheap now, a couple £100. I say cheap for this quality of drone, okay? It's fantastic, and as you'll see in the shots when I get it in the air in a minute, it's faultless really. It puts up with wind, puts up with a lot action. I put it through a lot. So it's fairly simple to start up. Got a button on the bottom. You might have to calibrate it. I'm not going to show that today. I might do it if I do a proper drone video, but I want to get this in the air now and get some footage. So I'm going to swap over to the drone.
So the first thing to do is hit the lift off button. By just pressing that, it'll bring the drone to about 1 meter above the ground and hold it there. However, as the sky is clear to take off, I'm just letting the drone climb up higher and higher. The first job here is to get a series of photos looking directly down onto the station area, and these will be used later to produce a panoramic image, but more on that at the end of the video. I'm happy with the height here, so I'll move the drone to the farthest point that will be modelled. I'll then move the drone slowly along the station, taking photos every so often, making sure they overlap. With that job done, next on the agenda is to get shots of the overall area. Okay, the colours will be different because at the moment it's February and I'm modelling autumn. But it does give a good indication of where the trees will be planted, and even what type of plants grow here. Other bits to point out are the width of the clearance between trackbed and rock face. I'll be measuring it later to confirm, but even the length of the siding is quite surprising when seen from a different angle. You can see the ravine below to the left. And I drew on the original plan that I was going to model this, but I'm not so sure it'll work out, unfortunately. Another benefit of the drone is seeing details from different angles. Here I'm panning over the trackbed and platform, which you'd see if you were standing on the side anyway. But then I can continue back off the edge and all of a sudden we've got great reference photos for what's an important part of the model that I'd probably have just had a guess at when modelling it. I just want to state during this part that whilst it looks a great way to investigate a site, drones are dangerous to fly around, and not only am I a volunteer on this railway, but I've also got clearance from the TR to film here today, and that's a really important consideration to think about. From my experience, most places are more than happy to give you the permission, so it's worth checking. And with that being said, this shot along the trackbed gives a really nice view of how the track's put together. And whilst photos are great, this video really helps piece it all together. I can also get good shots of the original trackbed to the right here, which still has tippers on it. Makes you think how intimidating it would have been pre-preservation along this part of the line. I took this next shot to focus more on the rock faces themselves, and it's already got me wondering how to actually model this style of rock face. If you have any idea, please do comment your suggestion, I'd really appreciate it. Also, if you're going to be flying drones, make sure you check your surroundings. Somewhere like Nant Gwernol here is a minefield with so many trees around and on various levels. If the drone clips one, it's a goner. The drone also helps get down to areas that I wouldn't physically be able to get to. Here I'm descending down from the track level to almost the stream, and found this really lovely area of walling. I'll be sure to try and model that later on. And as with the takeoff, the drone has a return to home and land functions. So it'll automatically descend to 1 meter above the ground and then slowly touch down. And that's a great setting and takes the risk away from smashing it down to earth.
So the drone is safely back down on the ground, but before I go, there's one more thing I need to do up here, and that's to measure up. I've taken bird's eye views of the station, which I'm hopefully going to Photoshop together, and I'll be able to plot against that. But to take the measurements up here, I've actually got a diagram that I've scanned through one of the old guidebooks. Not brilliant, actually, but it'll give me something to work on. So I'll go and do that now. So here we are. I've walked up to the top end of the line. I'm going to start measuring here and work my way down the station. It's a bit of a funny one, actually, because this bit of track, if you measure it up from the diagram that I showed you just before, it doesn't actually seem very to scale. So that's why it's one of the reasons I've come up here myself, actually. I'll also be measuring the width of the platform at different areas, because if I just turn the camera around, you can see actually that the platform isn't equal distance from the line all the way along. That's something that's really evident from the drone shots, and that's the sort of thing that this sort of site visit is really important to do, because without this I would sort of just be bodging it. The track, I have seen that Gwernol model before, and people do tend to make it very straight, and it just isn't. So I'm going to crack on, get some measurements, and show you what I come up with. Well, okay, I'm done for today. I actually came up here. It's Thursday. It's 1st of February and it's 4:45, okay? So I come up here after work. I've ran up from Abergnolwyn village down there, which is a nice run through the trees, actually. But I've got my drone shots, I've got my bird's eye photos, I've got my measurements, which probably look a bit odd on there, but they make sense to me. I'll convert them to 009, and they're going to give me the main information I need to sort of plot the area of the platform, because as you can see behind me, it does change shape quite a lot. It's not a straight platform. I've got photos of like signs and details that I'm going to have to make, and even things like the rock faces. It's really vital that you come on site when you're doing things like this, because if you model it without seeing that and you just look at sort of photos, you'll get it so wrong. It's, you know, there's a rock face just down near the edge of the platform, and it's not, it sort of really isn't that much higher than the engines would be. But if you were to make that, I would have definitely had it way higher than that. So there we go. This is why something like this is really important. If you haven't done it before, I do suggest not only coming to the Talyllyn, because that's something I would suggest anyway. Why wouldn't you come to the Talyllyn? I mean more like coming on site, actually. When you're building a layout, it's really important that you come and see what you're making. Don't model off other models. Model what is in real life, what you can see. That's something I took forward from one of my first layouts, and they get better when you do it that way. Okay, you get so much detail into them. Anyway, I'm going to call it quits because it's going dark. No, the camera picks it up pretty well, actually, the light, but no, it's actually quite dark, and I don't want to slip and fall into the ravine because I don't like water. I'm going to go home for a panhead now, so thanks for watching. I'll come and see me next week here, because I'll be probably putting the track down, wiring in some point motors, hopefully get a train running. Don't know, let's see how I get on. Yep, definitely wore the wrong shoes. Definitely wore the wrong shoes.
One last thing that I wanted to show you is how I put together panoramic photos. So this is Photoshop, and I've got a new screen open. Then I open File, go down to Automate, and click on Photo Merge, which is at the bottom. This will bring up a new window with the options to pick the layout for the panoramic picture. I'm just leaving it on auto this time. Then it comes to selecting the source files for the image. Before opening Photoshop, I put all mine together in a folder so they're easy to find. So I click on Browse and find said folder. With the folder open, I can now select any relevant images and click OK. This will bring those images to a list. And once you're happy with the list, you can click OK and watch the magic happen. Photoshop will then load the images one by one to work out how they all fit together. It takes a few seconds to do this, and whilst I'm not very good with computers, I'm assuming it's a lot of work for whatever little person's inside my laptop and responsible for doing his job for me. Once it's done, it'll load up your panoramic image. The picture now needs a final tidy up in the form of cropping. I'm cropping the image down to roughly the site that I plan to model on the layout. Confirming that cropping will leave you with your fancy new panoramic image. Not only does it look pretty and professional, but it's also perfect for correctly planning where the track will be placed on the baseboards. So there we go, one site visit, one panoramic bird's eye view of said site. I hope you found this useful. It's a simple yet brilliant tool for model making, so do have a go. Well, if you have access to Photoshop, I guess. Thanks for watching. I'm off to clean the hamster now. Cheers.